riser to bring up our little Reverend Donna Smith to deliver her message today titled Falling into Grace.
Only little in stature.
I've always been.
Take care of that knee.
Yeah.
I know, how many got knee problems in here? Oh my golly days.
Yes. However, I did hurt it doing something really good. I was exercising. Yay, Donna. I guess that'll teach me to exercise. Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I came over actually yesterday and did see a few elk, but I came in this morning from Newport, staying up there for the night, but it's really good to see all of you. I always enjoy coming here. I see what you mean, Sally. Seems like we should be like this or something. Anyway, our theme this month is presence. And I kind of find that there's two different kinds of presence. There's the presence that we have in the world, and then there's the presence of who we truly are in essence. And, you know, with the busyness of the world, fast pace, oh my gosh, I can't keep up with it sometimes. We are very easily pulled into the presence of the world. And we really get bogged down in all those obligations that the world says we need to do. But we still need to be present to what is going on within us. And so that we can create this physical life from this place of wisdom, from that wisdom that's within us. However, many people get so caught up in the world, they forget about that presence within them. And when they forget about that, they allow the world to have its way with them. It's very easy to fall into that. And you kind of forget about who you are. But we need to really remember, number one, that we are divine beings. We are divine beings. We have divine power within us. We have all that wonderful guidance that will help us live in the presence of the world. Now, I call this part of us the witness, same as your higher self. And that is that silent, omniscient part of us that kind of stands aside and watches the physical. You know, the brain is very good at calculating and living in the logical world, and we need that. But it's not very good at anything else. We need to go into our hearts and find that wisdom, because otherwise, like I say, the world will have its way with us. But when we do that, when we are in touch with both of those kinds of presence, we're in coherence. And I know I've talked about this with you before, but we bring our heart and our brain into coherence. That's our greatest power, that's our greatest wisdom, and we can live in the world, not be of it, but we can live here with our power and our grace and create the lives that we really want. You know, I think most of you have heard of HeartMath. They have scientifically proven that the heart is 5,000 times more powerful than the brain. And you know, we've been taught that the brain is the center of everything for so long, but now we're realizing it's not the center. In fact, they have shown that the heart will not even listen to the brain if it doesn't want to. It'll do what it wants to anyway, so yay, yay heart. So, you know, living in coherence sounds wonderful, but there's a human dilemma. People believe what they think. I expected a reaction. Really? But yes, we believe what we think, and that creates a lot of conflict in our lives. Why? Because we spend a lot of time defending those thoughts in our heads as being, you know, true. Humans tend to hold on to this thought that this belief that their thoughts are true, and that causes the suffering. But guess what else they do? They hang on to that suffering as if it's very, very important. And they tend to carry around in them these difficult times as if it's a part of who they are. They forget that that is not who they are. It's experiences that they've had. and it's also in their power to release those experiences. And you know, what happens when we think about those experiences, we literally bring them back in our minds and we relive them. We relive them, and that's what causes the suffering. Now, no one tells us to believe that our thoughts could be dangerous. I mean, we're never taught that, are we? No. In fact, we're actually taught the opposite. We are taught there's right and wrong, there's good and bad, there's black and white. And that's what our world teaches us. And we're kind of like computers in that way, you know? We put in our little program, I don't like this is bad, this is good, and that's how we live our lives. So we're taught in these absolutes, kind of, and we forget about the heart, because those are all brain operated thoughts. Krishnamurti once said, when you teach a child that a bird is named bird, the child will never see the bird again. What they will see is the word bird. That is what they will see and feel. And when they look up in the sky and see that strange winged being take flight, they will forget that what is actually there is a great mystery, that they really don't know what it is, that the thing flying through the sky is beyond all words. That is an expression of the immensity of life. So as soon as we label something or someone, we think that we know what it is, and what we name and label it contributes to the loss, actually, of its natural aliveness in us. I mean, we have named everything, the trees. To me, the trees, I have this really wonderful, intimate relationship with trees. It's just a word that we use, but do you really know what a tree is? Do you feel that energy that comes from it? And this is what Krishnamurti is talking about. We forget about that.
Each one of us has a name too.
Yes. And you know, in the physical world, we need to do that so that we can communicate in a way. But we tend to forget the essence behind those names.
Yeah.
You know, Sally's a divine being,
Yeah.
you know? Everybody here is a divine being. Yes, you have a name so we can call you and say, come here. But do we remember who you are? And so that's kind of the main message today. We have to remember who we truly are. So, these thoughts can separate us. And we can actually use these thoughts in a very unwise way. And what does thought do? Well, it names, it classifies it, you know, it explains things and everything so that our linear minds can make sense of it. But maybe we're not supposed to make sense of it. Think about that. So we need to think of ways that ensure our survival. Yes, we do, but they can also imprison us. So we must look beyond what we have established as communication. And remember too that our language has really no way to explain oneness. If you think about that, I mean, we can use the word oneness, but what do we say? I, you, we, you know, our language is based on separation. So remember that when you're talking, you know, because it will help us bring ourselves back into the oneness of what's going on. So, everything that we think about in the world is based on a concept of our minds. We think of a person, and the first thing that we do is we have this idea in our mind about what that person is, you know, what that person does, and this is how we categorize people and things in our life. And we can make these things and these people into something that they are not. We can make them into something that's big, you know, we idolize them, or we can make them into people who are small and we don't like them. But it's all in this idea in our heads. Think about that. I think that's a really good lesson for us to learn. If we look at everything as, okay, that's an idea, is it true? Is it true? But when we believe what we think and we see it as reality, that's when we suffer. Because almost anything that we see is not as it appears to be. But it appears that way only because we have a perception of life based on our experiences. And guess what that means? Everybody's is different. Guess what? That's why we have fights and conflicts and everything, because everybody has a different perception. So, how do we come out of this matrix of suffering? Well, here's a concept from Adyashanti. All thoughts, good, bad, loving, evil, all thoughts arise and disappear into a vast space. And he says, if you stop trying to control your mind, you begin to notice that thought occurs in a very vast space. This is an extraordinary discovery because it begins to show us that there is something present that is other than thought, and that we aren't just the next thought that we have in our minds. So the thoughts appear in our minds. We're taught to grab onto them and give them some kind of importance. And we identify things with these thoughts that are in our mind. But he continues and he says, it is not true that you are the one thinking the thoughts. Haven't we been taught that we are the thinker of the thoughts? And when I read that, I thought, really? Thinking simply happens and stops whether you want it to or not. And then I started thinking about all those thoughts that go through my head, and I said, you know what? He's right. I didn't ask for those thoughts. In fact, sometimes they come and I have no idea where they come from. And then I start thinking, oh, it must be from a past life or something like that, right? But we do hold on to these thoughts because we think that the content of our minds, our beliefs, our habits, our these ideas and opinions that we create are who we are. Well, number one, we are not our thoughts. We don't even have those thoughts, they just come. So we gotta let go of that thought that thought that runs through your head, oh, that was stupid of me. I'm not stupid. But those are the kind of things that happen, and then you feel stupid, don't you? Yeah, because you had that stupid thought. But the thing is, we really tend to believe our thoughts. That reminds me of Michael Singer. He said the same thing. He said all those thoughts are crazy, and they don't mean anything, and yet we give them a lot of meaning. So this is our prime illusion, that I am what I think, that I am what I believe, and that I am my particular point of view. And we suffer. We suffer. Because then we have to defend it, don't we? And then we go to war to defend those thoughts. And then humanity suffers in, not just us, but everybody around us suffers. So this realization that our thoughts are not who we are, in fact, we don't even have those thoughts, they just come, is the first step in unraveling our suffering. Adyashanti says, when you begin to become conscious, more aware, when your eyes begin to open, the first thing you see is how deluded you are and how much you're holding on to that which makes you suffer. This is in many ways the most important step. Are you willing to be aware? Are you willing to open your eyes? Are you willing to be wrong? Are you willing to see that you may not be living from a standpoint of truth, from a standpoint of reality? So we need to release the tendency to grab onto those thoughts as if they're important. And you'll notice, I think, as I do, sometimes those things just play themselves out. They come and go and nothing happened. They just play themselves out. That's kind of, support for the fact that I didn't call them in and I didn't release them. They just do it on their own. I love that. I can remember that now as I'm driving down the road, that hour and a half here and back, and all those thoughts come in. I say, oh, well, I didn't call you in. Go away, go away. But, and in fact, you probably don't even remember the thought you had like 2 or 3 minutes ago, do you? No. That's like when you give something away, you don't even remember what you have, and, after you gave it away. So when we become aware of how thoughts come and go, and that they are not who we are, we tend to experience the aspect of spiritual life that is the most profound, and that is grace. Adyashanti defines grace in this way. Grace is something that comes to us when we somehow find ourselves completely available, when we become open-hearted and open-minded, and are willing to entertain the possibility that we may not know what we think we know. He says that in this gap of not knowing is the suspension of any conclusion. A whole other element of life and reality can rush in, and that is grace. So you see what we've done. We let go of all of these things that we thought are true and allow truth to come in, and that's grace. He says it's that moment of aha when we realize something that previously we could never quite imagine. Those wonderful aha moments that we have. So how do we open to this grace? Well, we spend time in nature, we meditate, we spend time with people that we love, and we sit in stillness. And these things open up to a whole new perspective, and that's filled with grace. However, grace has a fiercer side. Difficult situations have a way of opening our hearts and our minds. We do everything we can to avoid these kinds of situations, but in reality, they are very important to us opening our hearts and minds and learning to grow and to see these things as those opportunities to learn. Jesus said, "Seek and ye shall find." And he also said, when he does find, he will be disturbed. Most of us want happiness on a platter, don't we? We don't want to go through all of that difficulty. But sometimes to find true happiness, we must be willing to be disturbed. We must be willing to be surprised. We must be willing to say, oh, I was wrong about that. And we must be willing to say, I just don't know. I just don't know, but I will allow it to come to me however it comes to me. So to be disturbed is not a negative thing. It means you're willing to see the truth. You're willing to see that things aren't the way you thought they were. It is a sign of opening up and stepping out of the box filled with everything you thought was true. I have had lots of experiences that have proven to me that what I thought was true is not. And some of them were those divine 2x4s. But now in my spiritual practice, I ask the Holy Spirit to bring my message to me in a very, very gentle way. I do that every day so that the Holy Spirit does not forget. Yes. And neither do I. So anyway, Krishnamurti also said, to know is ignorance. Not to know is the beginning of wisdom. Because what have we done? We've stepped out of our box, haven't we? And we're opened up to reality in front of us. So we're all seekers. And we all have many names for what we're seeking. Some of it's God, money, approval, power or control. But what we're really seeking is happiness. The problem is that we're seeking it outside of us and not accessing the happiness where it really is, and that is within us. And that's what Jesus said. He said that what you seek is within you. Adyashanti says that worldly things may bring temporary happiness and enjoyment, but they do not bring deep fulfillment. They cannot address the question of why we suffer, and they cannot bring the deepest relief to the human dilemma. We grasp our thoughts and beliefs as if they are true and look to the outer world to support them. Do we not do that? Oh yeah, that's, see, I was true. I was right. I was, that's how it is, because they showed me that. Well, no. We tend to look at things that are going to support our beliefs and bring those into us. That doesn't mean they're right, but there's a lot of those things around that say, okay, see, I told you I was right. But we need to go beyond that. We need to go within, because that's still all in the outer. So he continues and he says, we need to investigate our addiction to control, power, praise, and approval. To stop suffering, you must give up everything you think, your opinions, your beliefs, and who you think you are. Wow, that sounds scary, doesn't it? I mean, everything I think is not true. Well, I actually believe that. I really do. But it's difficult to do that, because that's certainly not how we've been taught. And so take baby steps if you want to take that journey of giving up all of those thoughts that you think are true. But ask yourself, be sure to ask yourself, is this true? Ask your heart. The heart will always answer you, always. Is what I'm thinking true? Now the Course in Miracles says we think upside down. What does that mean? That means that we think from a base of fear and we're not thinking from a base of love. That's been a very important teaching to me, because a lot of times I will have to stop and think, where am I coming from? Am I coming from fear? Am I coming from love? And if I'm coming from fear, it's probably wrong, whatever it is. But if I'm coming from love, I'm coming from truth. And you feel different, of course, when you're coming from love than you are when you're coming from fear. So would you rather suffer than give up your opinions and your beliefs? And a lot of people come from that place where they're not willing to be disturbed. It's just too painful for them. And that's okay. In fact, everything is okay, because it is a learning process. And that's why I say take baby steps to start questioning your beliefs, start questioning your opinions, and just see what happens. I have this fun practice that I do. I have this big pot of stew, and that's my life, everything going on in my life, all this stuff in there. And I see myself crawling out and sitting on the edge of the pot in a chair, drinking a margarita. In fact, when I leave this earth, I'm going to recommend that they have margaritas waiting for the people that are coming home. Don't you think that'd be great? But I do that because it helps me put things into perspective. All those little ingredients in that stew are all those things in my life that are happening. All my friends, all the people that irritate me, all the people that love me, I mean, everything. And so I can look at it from this witness side. The witness, your Holy Spirit and the higher self are the same. Your higher self have no judgments. So that's why I pretend like I'm sitting up there having my margarita and I'm the witness. And I can look at this from the eyes of love and truth. And it really does help clarify some things in my life. And it's fun. It's really fun. I sit there just having that. Sometimes I actually have a margarita. When I'm doing this, I shouldn't have told you that, but I do. But in any relationship, going into it with an open heart, an open mind, opens us up to all of the possibilities, instead of limiting those possibilities because we think we know what is right and what is true. And this willingness to be open is your greatest asset. Your willingness to be aware of things and look at them from a non-judgmental view. Because most of our opinions are from judgments. You know that, don't you? Yeah. When you do this, you're going to be much more willing to love everybody. But the first person you have to love is yourself. You know that. It's the hardest person for us to love is ourselves. But once you do that, it is so easy to love everybody else, no matter what they're doing. Trust me. So I'm going to close with more words from Adyashanti. He says, when you are open and sincere, even the smallest thing can change your whole world, can shift your entire perspective, and you can begin to step out of suffering. This doesn't mean that you'll escape the suffering and challenge of being in the world, but your heart will become big enough where you can embrace the world as it is, with all of its beauty and all of its sorrow. And somehow through that process you become someone who has something revolutionary to offer this world. A truly open mind, an open heart, and an open consciousness. I want to share, hope I got it. I did. The words are, "This, my dear, is the greatest challenge to being alive, to witness the injustice of this world and not allow it to consume our light." And I just love this. That's what we have to do. Don't allow what's happening to consume our light. The light is our greatest asset that we are. I mean, you can bring light to the darkness, but you can't bring darkness to the light. So that's why we need to take that higher road and hold on to the light and be that open-minded person in the world that is giving love and not fear. So, you want to go into some meditation for a few moments?
Sure.
So let's just relax. And be comfortable in your chair and close your eyes. And just breathe. These are some of our opening words this morning. Just be grateful for the breath in and out. Be grateful for this moment right now, because this is the only moment we're alive. So let's just breathe that awareness in. Breathe that gratitude in. So grateful to be together this morning. So let us remember that grace is all around us. If we only have the eyes to see it. The good moments are grace. The difficult moments are grace. The confusing moments are grace. Grace is in every situation, every person we meet. No matter how difficult we perceive them to be. When we realize that, our hearts will flower and we will be able to see the divineness within those people. We will be able to express the peace and the love that really is who we are. So just imagine falling into grace. Imagine the witness part of you stepping out, looking at you and your world from this unimaginable love, unconditional love. And rest in that wonderful grace as you look at your world. You will see things differently. You will begin to understand more deeply. You will open to accepting things as they are. And you will truly know what it means to love. And you will feel the freedom from fear. And you can rest there. Rest in that reality. And then when you step back into your body and you come into the world again, you will see everything differently. Your heart will be filled with love. Your eyes will be open to see that love and that beauty and that holiness that is the grace that is here all the time, everywhere. And that's our truth. And when we do that, we begin to awaken from this dream of separateness and struggle. And we truly do begin to realize that the grace that we are seeking is right there in the center of our own existence. And that everything we have ever yearned for, we have always been. It's always been here. So in those very moments when you know we don't know, when we take that backward step, when we open our heart, that's when we fall into grace. So let's just go into the silence for just a moment. So begin to bring your attention back into this beautiful sanctuary. Being grateful for all the people here, the love that is here, and the grace that is here. And one final breath. Well, before we go. Well, that eased out, didn't it? Before we open our eyes, let's put it that way. So we're gonna, in our class today, we're gonna go a little bit deeper into this, letting go of all of our thoughts and opinions and see what we can, bring up about all of that. Because it's kind of scary, because that's how we live. And so, trying to learn how to let go of those things and still know that we are safe. So that's what we're gonna talk about today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.